So good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the M Club Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony, our 31st, and we're looking forward to the stories. But before we get started here, I just want to read the paragraph here, or a couple paragraphs for describing our ceremony for the Hall of Fame. Ceremonies held on November 6, 1984, inducted 13 charter members into Monmouth College's M Club Hall of Fame. Since then, persons who have made outstanding contributions to Monmouth College athletics have been added annually to the select group of men and women worthy of the college's highest honor for athletic achievement. M Club members nominate candidates on the basis of their prowess as players or their distinguished records as coaches, officials, or athletic administrators. A candidate is not eligible until 10 years after graduation, and membership is never influenced by political or monetary considerations. Membership in the M Club Hall of Fame binds together men and women who have carried the banner of Monmouth College for more than a century and who have passed on to succeeding generations a spirit of enthusiastic commitment and honorable sportsmanship. The current Hall of Fame room, right down the hall to your right, is a gift of Sandy and Bill Axline, and in memory of William T. Axline and the late Channing and Jane H. Pratt. It was dedicated June 5, 2004. We're very thankful and appreciative, and we're fortunate enough today to have Bill Axline with us. Bill, would you please stand and be recognized? Now, before we get started, we will have a welcome and a few comments from our new president, President White.
Thank you, John. Well, I'll make the welcome as warm as I can, because that would be my natural inclination anyway, and also we could use a little warmth outside, but I think the sun's supposed to come out. And I will also make the welcome brief, because you didn't come here this morning to see or hear me. Thank everyone for coming out this morning on an early and cool, cloudy morning, but it will be a great day as we go on. I want to congratulate the honorees. I've been around these kinds of ceremonies for a long time, and oftentimes you'll have athletes come back, and life will have taken them in a different direction, let us say, and the athletic discipline that they once had has perhaps gone other places. But these four look like they can still get out there and compete today, so congratulations for that too. One of the great things about being in an environment like this is the holistic experience we create for young women and men on a college campus. The core of what we do, of course, is the intellectual experience that takes place in the classroom, in the laboratory, in the studio. But every bit as important and every bit as much of part of the education experience is what takes place in the residence hall, what takes place in the pool, on the court, on the track, on the field. Because the same qualities that we try, that should be our ultimate goal as an educational institution, the same qualities that we want to create in our students of character, of discipline, of responsibility for oneself, of responsibility to others, are just as much a part of the experience that takes place outside the classroom as what takes place in it. In fact, one of I am on a campaign to eliminate the term extracurricular, because sports aren't extra to anything. They are not outside. They are an integral part of the experience that we create on a campus like this, and we do it especially well at Monmouth. And these four people that we honor today are great examples of that combination of characteristics, of that holistic and integrated experience. So I will step away now and let the ceremonies begin. Thank you, John. Congratulations.
At this time, I would ask that we remember two of our Hall of Fame inductees that we have lost, and with a moment of silence as we remember Terry Schneider, class of 1969, a 1995 Hall of Fame inductee, and George Schroeder Jr., class of 1947, a 1992 Hall of Fame inductee. Thank you. And now to introduce Kara Kuhrts Kienzler, we have our Coach Roger Haynes, the coach of one of the top track and field programs in the country, and the current athletic director, Roger.
Thanks, John. We're here to recognize this morning the accomplishments of Kara Kuhrts Kienzler. Kara came from Monmouth College from Stark County High School. I was a little bit surprised this morning. A, it amazes me that it's been 10 years since she's graduated. B, I wanted to get online because I wanted to find out exactly how far she had triple jumped in high school. She just barely made the internet area with her high school career, so it's starting to sink into me, A, how long I've been here, and B, how long it's been since I've been able to coach her. So she came to us from Stark County High School. I found her best triple jump record at 34 feet 5 inches in high school. Am I right or no? I think that's right. Good. She certainly was an excellent student in high school and at Monmouth during her time here. Probably the first thing I'll speak on is the support system that Kara came with, and it had a great deal to do with her success as a person and as a student and as an athlete. Kara came here, I think, thinking she was going to be 50% basketball player, 50% track athlete. She had an older sister, Amber, who was a very good basketball player for us as well, and I'm guessing it's probably not easy for the younger sister to come and play a sport to support her older sister, and after a year decide basketball is not my thing and track is. So to get that kind of positive support from her sister and her family is a pretty remarkable thing. And I think that probably has a good deal to say about why she accomplished the many things that she did throughout her career. Kara was a 16-time Midwest Conference champion in track and field, 7 in the triple jump. She missed 1 as a freshman indoors. She wouldn't play basketball that year. She might have got that done. I'm okay with 7. I'm sure she is too. She was a 4-time conference champion in the long jump. Had another Hall of Famer, Constance Jackson, that was older on her team that kept her from getting a couple more long jump championships. She qualified 6 different times for the NCAA meet. She was a triple jump All-American indoor in 2003. She has the number 6 long jump all-time at Monmouth indoors, and she has the number 6 long jump all-time outdoors at 17:10 3/4. She has the number 1 triple jump, both indoors and out, so she's the school record holder, 37:11 3/4 indoors, 39 feet 10 inches outdoors. So when you improve 5.5 feet in the triple jump throughout your college career, that's a pretty remarkable accomplishment. She was a conference record holder both indoors and out. She's still second all-time in Midwest Conference history to a young lady from Monmouth College who was a multiple-time national champion, so she's been taken down by the best in our league, but she's still number 2. She has the top 4 jumps all-time in history at Monmouth College, and she has 7 of the top 10 outdoors, so truly remarkable in the triple jump event. She managed to do some other things when she came here, as I like to try to get our athletes to do. I'm not sure what else she did. I think she ran some in high school, but she's on the number 8 all-time 4x200 relay team, one of my favorite events indoors. She's on the school record 4x400 indoors and has the top 3 fastest times in that event. And she's on one of the top 10 outdoor 4x400. So anytime you've remained in the top 10, all these internet years later since she was in school, she's done well in her career. She's a 4-time Midwest Conference outstanding performer, indoor and outdoor, both her junior and senior years. That's recognition by the conference coaches of the outstanding performer at the conference championship meet. This is one, in hindsight, we probably should have worked a lot harder on. We had her doing plenty already, but she's a school record holder in heptathlon, and she only did that competition 1 time in her career and scored a national qualifying performance in that. Very important to me and certainly to Kara in her career. She was one of the leaders of 7 Midwest Conference championship teams. You have to understand she was here in some of the best eras for sprinters and jumpers in the history of our program. We had multiple All-Americans in sprints and relays and hurdles, some of her teammates. Kara didn't start her career as the number 1 person on our team by a long shot. but by the time she finished her career, she certainly was in my mind. And to give you a quick summary, we've talked about the rest of her career, but I'll talk about her final home meet because that's one of the most significant in my mind as I think back about her. We had some injuries, we had some difficulties. We were on a good conference championship string at that time, and we hosted at home, and there were a couple solid teams in our league that were going to be a challenge. As I said earlier, I like to make sure good athletes get lots of opportunities. So Kara got 7 opportunities at the Midwest Conference meet that year. She was not a high hurdler in high school, and I don't think she cared for the event a great deal, but I knew that she had the ability to do it. She placed 5th in the high hurdles. Our team placed 5th in the 4x400 relay. She placed 5th in the open 400, which was difficult for her prelims on Friday with all the other things she had to do, and placed 5th in the 400 on Saturday. One that's remarkable to me, and I'm not sure I've had a whole lot of athletes make this type of commitment for our team. You got to understand, she was blessed. When she steps up here, you'll see she was blessed with good genetics by her parents. Sprint genetics were not one of those qualities, unfortunately. Sorry, Mom and Dad. But the thing that's remarkable to me is we had some injuries. She certainly wasn't our top choice to run in an open spot at 200 meters, which was not her long suit. If you know a little bit about track, 200 meters is the third to last race in the day. That's when it's time to lock down conference championships. Yeah, I was pretty sure this was going to be really easy. I had all these it's going to be really easy. 200 meters was not her great event. Our team was very much needed at the time, and she placed 3rd in the open 200 for our team. She did do something that came very naturally to her. She was 2nd to her teammate, Melissa Bittner, Hall of Famer here on the high jump. She easily won the long jump, and she very easily won the triple jump. Why do I make such a big deal out of all those? Because it's some 5ths and some 3rds and some 1sts. When we and her team needed it most, she had accounted for 46 out of 100. Out of 180.5 team points to lead us to a team championship. I really didn't think this would be pretty easy out of history. So with all that said, one of the best folks I know, one of the best student athletes, one of the people that came the furthest in their athletic career at Monmouth. It's my great pleasure to introduce for induction in the Monmouth College Athletic Hall of Fame, Mrs. Kara Kuhrts Kienzler.
Monmouth College. The 4x4 is the last race, and it's very exciting if you're running it, and all the teams huddle around the last turn of the track. coach would shovel or snow blow 2 lanes of the track so we could run our Baylor 200s. So I remember those days. I'm sure you guys do too, girls. So through all this, I still made us to keep up my studies and graduate with honors, and that was something really important to me and my family too, and that I'm proud of. The reason I work so hard and why I'm here today is because of the support of my family. My mom and dad they were always there for my older sister and I, all growing up, anything we did athletically or academically, and they did that all while also providing extra care for my younger brother with special needs. And I just can't thank them enough for all their support. They're the hardest workers I know, and they made it possible for my sister and I both to come to Monmouth College. And my sister, Amber, she always had me in basketball. She was my biggest competitor, but also my best friend growing up, and I'm thankful that I was here for 2 years to help look out for me and show me the ways. And my husband, Brian, who I met here on campus my junior year, he became a fan of track. He quickly learned that going to track meets it involves hours of warm-up and preparation for 3, hopefully 6 jumps or a 60-second sprint, so I appreciate that. And then I also want to recognize my closest friends, teammates, roommates, Jill Fuchs, Kate McGee, and Felicia Mornott. Thank you for being here, all these memories I share with you. And Coach Haynes, I truly appreciate your passion for the sport, your relentless dedication to helping me complete what you knew I was capable of. I still have your stick figure, general strength drawings. I don't have them memorized anymore, but I still do them occasionally. But what's most rewarding about this is to be able to share my love for the sport and this great school with these little rugrats over here. My daughter Caitlin and my son Max. So thank you very much for this great honor. Yeah.
Our next presenter is the man responsible, probably more than anybody else in the last 30, 40 years for making sure that the athletic events at the college, the fields are ready, the players have uniforms, and the events go off mostly without a hitch, right? And also one of our most successful baseball coaches, Coach Roger Zedric.
Well, you know you're an old SOB when you know everybody going in. And then for another year, I know everybody going in. I'm putting Joe in, of course. I coached Ivy also. Kara, Amber, Brian, I remember him playing here. By the way, do you mind bringing in cookies? Come on, Mom! And what can I say about my guests, okay? Well, most of it I can't say, but look, congratulations to all of you. You know, I always struggle on these speeches, I really do, because the bottom line of these speeches is they want you to be nice and keep it clean, and that's tough to do, okay? I coached Joe for 4 years, okay? We made 4 spring trips to Florida. Now, I don't know about you, but if you've ever made a spring trip to Florida with 25, 28 guys, on spring break, and trying to make them concentrate on baseball, it's a tough thing to do, okay? But, so I will try and keep it nice and clean, okay? It actually, the speech came real easy. Joe gave me a call and asked me if I would do this, and I said, sure, I would be honored to. And I got to thinking about it, and the reason why it came so easy is Joe and me are a lot alike, okay? Joe was a really good student athlete here. I mean, good at both, and I was a very good athlete here, so we have that in common. We both worked for the equipment manager while we were here, okay? And I worked 4 years as equipment manager, and I had the pleasure of Joe working for me for 4 years, and he also played for me 4 years. So we got very close over those years, you know. And, you know, when I recruited Joe, just like me, could have gone bigger, okay? I had the opportunity to go bigger than Monmouth College, and Joe's good too, okay? But I remember when I recruited him with Steve Glasgow and Taylor Field, where we all in the club room, and I looked at all three of them, I said, obviously you three are thinking about going somewhere bigger. I go, but wouldn't it be better to be a big fish in a small pond than be a little fish in a big pond? And Joe, you are a big fish today, okay? All right? I was talking, one day at a baseball game, I was talking with his dad was standing by the fence next to me, Dale, and just going back and forth, he's asking a little bit about the game, and Joe's pitching, and Dale's telling me how Joe was going to be left-handed. I get, Joe, don't you write left-handed? Yeah. And he says, you know, growing up, he almost was left-handed, he really liked Tommy Hurd, and I go, left-handed? I go, Dale, you know how good he'd be if he was left-handed? And Dale, being the ever straight-faced person, he goes, well, he wouldn't be here, Raj. But the one thing that really sets Joe, you know, how Joe and me are really alike is we care a lot about other people, okay? My boss sitting over there, Coach Haynes, always said to me, he said, Raj, you care more about other people than you do about yourself. And that can be said about Joe. When Joe called me and said, Coach, can you do this for me? One of the first questions was, who else is going in? And I told him who was going in, and then there was dead silence on the phone. And it wasn't because he didn't, you know, wasn't thinking the other people were honorable. Joe thought some of his own teammates should go in with him. And one of his teammates is here, and I would have to mention Ryan Johnson, because it's tough to talk about Monmouth College baseball from, what was it, 99 to 02, Joe, without talking, if you mention Joe Larkins' name, you have to mention Ryan Johnson's name. They went back and forth every year, who was the best pitcher on the team. And someday, Ryan, you'll get your day, but today we're going to talk about Joe. Okay? But that was Joe's biggest concern of all, was that one of his teammates was not going in. And I explained to him, Joe, you deserve to go in. Ryan someday will get his honor, but this is your day. Some of Joe's accomplishments over his career, he still ranks in the top 10 at Monmouth College in appearances, games started. He's second in complete games, first in career shutouts. He's in the top 10 in victories, ERA, innings pitched, Ks, games played, and he's second in the career all-time in home runs. So not only was Joe a great pitcher, but he was a great hitter. Joe's a four-time all-conference player. He made it to 3 different positions. He made it 3 times as a pitcher, he made it as a utility player, and he made it as a designated hitter. So it's easy to see why he's here today and why he's getting honored. I could go on forever, but like I said, I'll keep it clean. It's Joe's day, so it is indeed my honor to introduce to you the 4-time All-Conference, 2-time All-American, Conference Pitcher of the Year, Joe Larkins.
Thanks, Coach. I tell you, it's pretty humbling to sit here and listen to him stand up here, somebody that I have so much respect for, say so many nice things about me. But had I known that all I had to do to get Coach to say a few nice things about me was get inducted into the Hall of Fame, I may have worked a little harder than freshman and sophomore. It's also awesome to see him in something other than a t-shirt and shorts. So I kind of had that. There was a little bit of a strategy on my part when I called Coach. But it's interesting because when I called him and asked him to be my presenter, I hadn't talked to him in probably 10 years, I would say. So I was a little nervous, and actually I was kind of putting off the phone call a little bit, even though I pretty much made up my mind from the beginning as soon as Coach Haynes called me that I wanted Coach Sander to be my presenter. And we spent the first probably 30 to 45 minutes just talking about life and catching up. We talked about my kids, we talked about his kids and his grandchildren now, and the fact that I moved to Minnesota and I haven't lost my mind. It's it got to the point where when it came time for me to ask him to be my presenter, I got so caught up and lost in the conversation that I almost forgot why I even called him. And it's just, you know, it's just kind of a relationship that I've always had with Coach. For my 4 years here, he was without question the most influential person in my life. He taught me a lot about dedication and leadership and accountability. He taught me that important balance between between not being too high or too low and how to handle success and how to deal with failure. Things that are still part of the fabric of who I am today. In fact, I work with a guy who's a great friend of mine, and he says something every once in a while that really reminds me of Coach. And it's a little different than how Coach would say it, but it always reminds me of him. He said, just remember that nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems at the time. And that was kind of the mantra of a baseball player, especially a pitcher. We had to have short memory. You know, if you made a bad pitch and you let it linger, just one thing led to another, and you know, something that Coach instilled in me, and now it's kind of a life lesson for me. He's also one of the top 2 reasons that I chose to come to Monmouth. Coming to play for Coach Sander was something that I wanted to do. The other being that it isn't Knox. I also want to thank my mom and dad who are here with me today. I'm fortunate enough to have them here. They were always very supportive of me throughout my career and instilled in me the type of Midwestern values that made staying close to home and attending a school like Monmouth that had values very much aligned with my own easy choice for me. My mom was like the perfect fan because between double headers she would always bring me lunch. And you may have heard a rumor that I do like to eat. I love to eat. And Mom would always bring me food in between the games of the double header so I didn't have to eat those little box lunches that the school provided. So I was very thankful for that. And quite honestly, I don't know that she even really cared if we won or lost. She just really enjoyed watching me play. My dad taught me the fundamentals of the game. He was always very willing to go into the yard after work and play catch or go batting practice to me. I can remember when I first started pitching and working on the mechanics division, he would catch for me. And that lasted until the time I was about 14 years old. And I think just old knees and bad eyes and my fastball just were not a great combination for him. He was the head coach for many of the teams I played on as a youth, and he was my biggest fan when I moved on to high school and college. Our shared love for the game of baseball is something that has always been a common thread for us to connect with. I want to thank each and every one of my teammates. Baseball is a consummate team sport, and I played with some awfully darn good ones. I was actually blessed to play 3 years here and 3 years in high school with a guy that was inducted into the Hall of Fame last year. And I would say that I hope that at least 2 or 3 other guys from the team that I played on in 2002 will someday get their day up here, and I'll be able to sit where you guys are doing what you're doing to support me. At my Hall of Fame announcement, or on my plaque, it said that I was a part of some of the best teams in school history, including one that won a school record 26 games. And there are 2 very true things about that. One, I was a part of some of the very best teams that ever played here. And 2, we were really stinking good. I have a lot of great memories of this school. I think I could go on for hours just in the 4 years that I spent here, but I know I can't do that. I do want to share a few. I can remember the first trip that I made over to Monmouth College, and I just thought the campus was absolutely beautiful. Now I have no idea where I'm going. I pulled up in front of a building the other day. I don't even know what it's called. I think it's the Science Center or something like that. It was the first available parking spot. I came into the office and I asked Coach Sander, and they said, well, he's down in the training room or the equipment room. And I thought, oh, I know where that is. I worked there for 4 years. No. I wandered around downstairs like the catacombs for about 20 minutes before we finally ran into Coach. So everything has totally changed. And it's changed for the better. The field house is amazing. The Science Center is amazing. The new dormitories are absolutely amazing. I just can't believe how much the school has evolved in the 12 years since I left. Some of the old dormitories that are gone, historical buildings, there's still a little bit of a nostalgic part of me that wishes they were still here. But what a beautiful campus. It was then, 12 years ago. And I can remember after my tour going into Coach Sanders' office and talking with him, and he gave me the sales pitch. He said, he knew I was being recruited by a number of other schools, and he said, some of these schools, Joe, they want you to go there and they just want you to pitch. And he said, some of these other schools that are recruiting you would rather you not pitch. They want you to hit their way. They want you to play the outfield or first base or DH. I think you should come to Monmouth because I want you to be a And I just thought, you know, if I really had 4 years left to play the game I loved, I'd want the opportunity to do it all. And so that made it an easy decision for me to come to Monmouth and to play for Coach Sanders. I can also remember our first team meeting before we went on our spring trip, and I too, Coach, will keep it clean. Something that I remember maybe a little bit differently from those team meetings was Coach standing in front of the team, he's addressing the team right before we left to go on our spring trip. And he said, make the most of your time here, the most of your opportunities. Love your teammates, cherish the moments, and take nothing for granted. Because the next 4 years, for almost all of you, will be the last 4 years that you play baseball. And it will be the fastest 4 years of your life. Very true. 4 years later, I was sitting in that same stinking classroom in the old gymnasium, listening to Coach say the exact same thing, and I'm looking across at some of the freshmen that were in there, a lot of long faces, like reality was starting to set in, and this is it, 4 years. I'm thinking, yeah, boys, take it all in, and then it just dawned on me that I've been hearing this for 4 years, and I never really, it's over. That's it. It's done. I can remember that feeling I felt my freshman year when we lost 3 out of 4 to Knox. And I can remember when we walked off the field for the last time that season at Illinois Wesleyan after we failed to qualify for the conference tournament. The one thing that we did as team leaders is we got together, we made the commitment that would never happen again. Neither of those two things were ever going to happen to us again. And they didn't. I think we ended up winning our last 13 games against Knox, and we never failed to reach the conference tournament again. My sophomore year was my personal best as an offensive player. I had a career high in batting average, home runs, and RBIs, and as a team we finished second in our division. Unfortunately, that meant we had to travel to Grinnell. And the one thing that I remember about that conference tournament was getting positively mauled by Ripon. They beat us, I want to say it was 24-8. It was ugly. And so we went from the elation of how we qualified for the conference tournament to just complete and utter embarrassment. But one thing that we knew is that the bar was raised, and if we were going to be the conference champions, they were going to be the benchmark. So we had to figure out a way to beat Ripon. My junior season was my personal best on the mound. And we won the division for the first time and again faced Ripon in the conference tournament. This time the game was much closer. We still lost, but we knew we were gaining ground. My senior season was one that I'll never forget for many reasons. We won the division with an 11-1 record. We swept Knox again and later beat them in the conference tournament to win our championship, qualifying us for the national tournament. Taylor Field set the single-season home run record and tied the career mark in only 3 years at Monmouth. Ryan Johnson and I won our 20th career game. On the same day. And we both threw shutouts. I can remember the consecutive scoreless inning streak that our pitching staff put together that season. And I can remember driving in the go-ahead run and watching Ryan go the game of his life. And a 4-0 win over the third-rate team in the country. I can remember what it felt like to walk off the mound when we lost to Carthage in 14 innings in the regional tournament. And taking a knee in the outfield with my teammates for the last time in my career. I remember the day I turned in my uniform, got my last man hug from Coach Sander, and walked across the stage and received my diploma. And now I have a new memory, one that, like so many others, will stick with me forever. I will be forever grateful to the college. I am honored that my career is being celebrated here today, and I am incredibly flattered to have a piece of legacy in the Hall of Fame. Thank you all so very much. Go Scots.
forget today either because we're very appreciative. Do we have any current Monmouth College students here? Would you please stand? Play your cards right and have some discipline. Work hard, listen to your coaches like these folks did. You might find yourself standing up here someday. Thanks for coming. Next to introduce Lance Zedric, once again, Roger Haynes.
Before I begin talking about Lance, certainly want to welcome Ivy Clark back and congratulate Joe on their Hall of Fame inductions. I had the good pleasure of seeing both those guys play multiple times. Got to see Ivy play back in the old gym. He's going to have to win there. He'll be sad that the nominees are gone. We probably made a poor choice when we turned that into the fitness center. It's great for our kids. We should still be playing basketball in there. So. Lance Zedric came to Monmouth College from Canton High School. Lance was fortunate to work as a thrower with Coach Fred Harms, and Coach Harms is here today. I'm sure Lance will recognize him. Then he went on to Spoon River Junior College, where he worked with Coach Charlie Black. Lance was a junior college national qualifier in javelin. When he came to Monmouth, he played center and linebacker on the football team for 2 seasons. Certainly was an outstanding thrower, and I'll get to that more in a minute. But probably the most important thing that Lance helped me with, one, he came and contributed a great deal to our team. And in my 4 years at Monmouth, it was the first time we placed second. Co-College was the track and field power at that point in time. They'd won their 13th consecutive conference championship outdoors, and we were at least knocking on the door a little bit, so that gave me some hope. And unfortunately, I was able to coach the next year, but that's for another story. Probably what Lance taught me the most, I've been fortunate to be on some good high school teams. Best friend from high school's back there. We did similar events, but we didn't do the same events. Track wasn't very good at Monmouth when I got here, so I was fortunate to set a school record or 2 fairly early. But Lance was the first guy in my entire career, high school or college, that really challenged me in one of my primary events. And I learned the fact that he was a lot better teammate than I was. I know that undoubtedly there's one story he's going to tell on me that he takes great satisfaction in. I've not lost anybody on my team in high school or college, much at all. And he was better for a while in javelin than I was, and it was kind of unnerving for me. But the thing that never failed to happen was he was always supportive, he was always cooperative, he always cared about what my performance was, and most of all, there was always a smile on his face, and it was a very friendly rivalry. And that's something that I hadn't learned up to that point in my own career. I wasn't a very good loser, and he taught me how to act the right way, and that lesson, Lance, has benefited me for a lot of the athletes that I've coached over the years, that you can have multiple people who are pretty good in the same event, and they can treat each other right. And I definitely learned that lesson from Lance, so I thank him for that. In my opinion, Lance is here as the top 3 event thrower in the history of the Monmouth College track program. The hammer throw was not an event back then. I have no doubt he would have excelled at that had someone known how to teach him something about it. That wasn't going to be me. He and I had the pleasure, 1 year out of school, I was an assistant coach for Coach Ostrander, and Lance and I worked pretty closely together in the shot put. He threw the discus 145-10 during his career, which I think had we worked a little harder at, he might have been even better at. He set the school record of 196-10 in the javelin. That broke Hall of Famer Ron Baker's old school javelin record. And he set Midwest Conference and outdoor, Monmouth College and Midwest Conference outdoor records with his best throw, 53.9½, which still is a national ranking performance today, 30 plus years later. He was an NCAA qualifier in 1983. That was my first trip as a coach to the national meet. That was a lot of fun. He placed 7th, which was then not All-American, only 6 were All-American then. Placed 7th behind the longest throw in Division III history. There was 2 guys from Hamlin College in Minnesota. I'm not sure what was going on. Well, actually, I know there was no drug testing back then. They had a shot putter that threw 66 feet, and they had a shot putter that threw 62 feet, and it's rare for a 60-foot thrower in Division III now. So something was going on. They had a great coach, but those 2 guys were unbelievable. One ended up playing in the NFL for a little while. Lance is still number 4 all-time at Monmouth in the javelin throw. He's still number 4 all-time at Monmouth in the shot put 30 plus years later. Lance went on to earn a master's degree from Western Illinois. He was a member of the U.S. Army track and field team while he served in the military. He has lots of great stories for me about how far he threw in the Army, and I think largely because I was never there to see it, probably. So I evaluate some of those performances. He's a well-known writer. He's a teacher in Peoria. He's published, I believe, 10 books, many focusing on military history. This is one of my favorite personal stories on him. There are many personal stories, neither he or I, either one can tell. It's better not for this group today. But this is one of my best memories for me with Lance, and he wasn't even there. I've slept with the TV on almost my entire life. And it's been 6 or 8 or 10 years ago, and I wake up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I know something strange is going on in my room, and I'm not sure what it is. And I haven't opened my eyes yet, and I hear this old-style military Jeep running, and suddenly I hear these voices start talking on the TV to me, and they're interviewing each other. One guy's interviewing the other, and it's Lance doing a show on military history on the Alamo Scouts, one of the books he's written about a special forces group. And I'm waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to Lance Zedric talking to me on the history channel. So, dutifully as a friend, I wake up and I set up and watch the rest of the episode, and come to find out Lance ruined one of these antique military Jeeps because he was the one that was supposed to drive it. I don't know if the gears went out or what went on, but it was a scary memory. I hope he's not going to talk about this, but I told this story on him yesterday. Lance definitely had special forces stuff in him, even when he was in college. My dorm was right back here and faced this way on the street. As I said, he was a great friend and teammate. I'd take a nap after lunch every day, and he'd come to wake me up for class. And back then, there weren't very many people in school, so I had what was called a double single. I paid a little bit extra money, so I was the only person in my room. So I had a pretty nice room. I had 2 beds pushed together. I had a big recliner in there, the whole deal. I'd wake up from a nap, and Lance would be sitting there in the recliner staring at me. He says, "You sleep so peacefully, it's like you're dead." So I can't tell you how many times I woke up with him staring at me, waiting for me to go to practice. He definitely taught me about friendship. He definitely taught me a lot about hard work. I hadn't done the things I needed to do. I've told our kids many times I wish I would have worked significantly harder in my own career. That's why I have some of those expectations of those folks now. Lance was a good deal of that learning for me throughout my last 2 college years here, because there wasn't anybody else doing a whole heck of a lot of teaching in track and field, was there, Lance? So with that said, it's my great pleasure to present for induction into the Monmouth College Athletic Hall of Fame, Mr. Lance Zedric.
Wonderful work of fiction, I might add, Roger. Thank you, Roger, President Wyatt, John, family, and friends. And congratulations to Kara, Joe, and Ivy. It's an honor to share this day with you and celebrate the capstone of our competitive athletic careers. I'm humbled and deeply grateful to Monmouth College for selecting me for induction alongside such noted athletes, and for having the alacrity to avoid bestowing this honor upon me posthumously. When Roger Haynes informed me of my Hall of Fame selection, and that I had about 15 minutes to speak, I pondered the myriad possibilities. Should I open with a federal witticism, and then thank everyone who helped me along the way? Should I share a few fond memories from my college days? Or should I just filibuster this entire proceeding and set the record straight? Maybe a little bit of everything. You see, for the past 30 years, I've told anyone who would listen, and you know who you are, that if it had not been for a general size, speed, strength, and athleticism, I would have been the best athlete ever come out of Monmouth College, and I believe that. I stand by that today, Roger will. I just don't understand what it took so long to get here, but I'll more about that later. Now, on a serious note, what is success without anyone to share it with? No person, athlete or not, ever achieves without the support of family and friends. And it's especially nice to see both here in abundance to help celebrate this moment and to help celebrate the free continental breakfast afterwards. It is free. So. Well, first I'd like to thank my mom, Peggy, who can't be here today, for being my everything in all things, and for caring nothing about sports, any sport. For example, during my freshman year in college at Spoon River, after I had finished second in 3 events and 17-team invitational, I came home and I was complaining, saying, "Oh, I got beat, da 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 da." And Mom said, innocently or not, "Maybe you're just not good enough." Well, needless to say, 6 months later, after I finally cooled off, I went to work with renewed vigor, and good things began to happen. Her one remark did more than any medal that ever motivated me. Next, I'd like to thank my father, Les, for relatively good DNA, a competitive spirit, an honorary sense of humor, as people tell me, and for giving me the opportunity to train vigorously on the business end of the shovel at Monmouth Livestock, cleaning livestock pens. Dad also afforded me the opportunity to toss thousands of wet bales of hay and countless bags of feed corn while wrestling hogs, cattle, and sheep on a daily basis. His innovative and cutting-edge cross-training regimen prepared me well for 280-pound linemen and often made a 16-pound shot put feel light. But more importantly, it steered me toward an easier and cleaner line of work, and for that I am grateful. I think Dad knew what he was doing too. But it was always great seeing him at football games and track meets, home or away. Everyone should be so lucky. And also, thanks, Dad, for encouraging me to come to Monmouth College. I had some opportunities at University of Wyoming, Western Illinois, and some other larger universities. But Dad, like Joe's parents, said, "Why not be a big fish in a small pond?" And I remember what my father said, and I'm glad he pushed me toward that. I think things turned out well. Thanks, Dad. I would also like to recognize some of the coaches and teachers who made it possible for me to be here today. Chief among them is Fred Harms, my track and football coach at Kent High School, and my second father. And to be sure, a second father to many others. An African proverb states that it takes a village to raise a child. And Coach Harms was my mayor, my sheriff, my mentor, my friend, and oftentimes my psychiatrist. No one could get into my head like Coach. You may not remember, but I will never forget. From the man who cares. Thank you, Coach. I would also like to acknowledge Coaches John Gerber, Ron Elberg, Charlie Schwam from Canton High School, and Coach Charlie Black, who recently passed away from Monmouth College, or from Spoon River College, and the others who had a hand in shaping the finished product that you see here today. But one of the most important people in my life, although I didn't realize at the time that I went here, was Monmouth College history professor Bill Irwin, who inspires me to this day through his scholarship and common sense and devotion to the college. I still look forward to attending football games, the dock, where we talk a little football, talk a little history, but always enjoy a couple hours of friendship forged in the classroom over 30 years ago. Doc will retire in 2015 after 49 years at the college. Congratulations, Doc. You are irreplaceable. Now, about those fond memories, and there are many, but most are not of great wins or setting records. They are the people I met along the way, the people who made me laugh, who motivated, encouraged, taught, and inspired me. The friendships made and experiences shared. These are the memories, my fondest memories of Monmouth College, and these are special. In track, I'd like to thank my competitor and teammate, Roger Haynes, for his enduring friendship, complete use of his dorm room my junior year, and for breaking my javelin record on the last throw of his career. But also having, as a first-year coach, the class to push me to break his record, and for having the foresight what it took to build a sports dynasty at Monmouth College. Look at him now. And now, look what has become of this college. When I came here in 1981, the weight room, I don't even know where it's at, up the top of some old building that's no longer here, part of that building. We had 3 barbells and 2 benches that were covered with carpet, one squat rack, and about 3 mismatched dumbbells. Steve Bloomer, you can attest to that.
At 120 degrees heat.
And 120 degrees when it was cool. And look at it now. I'm proud of Monmouth College for what it's become. And Roger, I'm proud to say I knew you'd win, which is the reason, actually, it took so long for me to get here. And I told you I would get to this. You see, Roger's been reluctant to give me a public forum for fear that I would start telling Roger stories. Well, there was this one time. Well, maybe later. I'm just glad we didn't have camera phones back then. And you can exhale now, Roger. I'm going to move on. And how can I forget Hall of Fame decathlete Roger Well, who graciously allowed me to loan him my car when his was broken, which was quite often, I might add, but who now owns half the state. I wish he'd just left a little gas in the tank for me once in a while, but seriously, I never met a harder worker or more dedicated athlete than Roger. It's nice to see you again. And then there was Pat Garst. Where is Pat? The Baron, who upon defeating me for the conference javelin crown my senior year, also in his last throw, nearly knocked me out with his elbow when I gave him a high five, adding insult to injury. Pat was the embodiment of class on and off the field, and for 30 years he has educated and coached thousands of high school students. I'm proud to say that he's still a friend, and his love and understanding for math, despite his love and understanding for math, had my distance for both. Future national champion high jumper Eric Ely was another person I couldn't understand but admired greatly. Eric refused to be corrupted, no matter how hard anyone tried, and set the standard for Monmouth College athletes Although he was an outstanding athlete, he was an even better person, and that says a lot. Teammates Pete McNaughton, Mike Turk, Chris Pyle, Rob Hanna, and others also made my experience at Monmouth College unforgettable. Granted, they couldn't jump as high, blow as far, or run as fast as I could, but they did okay. On the football field, I'm proud to say that I played on 2 of the worst teams in the history of Monmouth College. Not proud of our record, but proud of who we were. What we lacked in talent, we made up for by being undersized and slow. But we did not lack effort. We did not lack heart, and we had fun. On defense, I recall the time spent roaming my own end zone, in part because I was there so often, along with Chuck Brockett, Steve Gray, Craig Nash, and Monmouth College Vice President Steve Bloomer, sitting here in the crowd today. Nor can I forget the thrill of driving down the field on offense with Jim Moore, Dennis Leonard, and quarterback Rob Long, a Rhodes Scholar finalist in 1983. In fact, our 82-83 team still holds the Monmouth College record for the longest touchdown pass, 95 yards, long to Lair. But everyone forgets that it was Zedric who hiked the ball to Long, who threw the pass to Lair, who scored the touchdown, who set the record at Monmouth College. Thank you very much. Roger, I just can't understand. I mean, I started the whole damn thing. Where's my name in the record book? Did I get an asterisk or an ampersand or something in there? All right. But fellow lineman Bobby Guitardo holds a special place in my memory. For it was Bobby, a gritty Italian kid from South Chicago, who Dan Chick, Troy Strode, and I took snipe hunting just outside of the flock 16 miles from here one fall afternoon after practice. Following this great rural adventure, Bobby didn't speak to me for 2 weeks, and that was at practice, in the huddle, or during games. Finally, one day in practice, Coach Dave Ostrander asked him how the snipe hunting went, and all was forgiven. I haven't seen Bobby since 1985, and I often wonder if he's alone in the forest somewhere, holding a gunny sack and a flashlight, yelling for me to bring the car. That was no fun. As was beating Knox my senior year in the 6th oldest football game in the history of the nation. And speaking of tradition, I would also like to recognize former Monmouth College Athletics Director Terry Glasgow. TG, the most articulate and profane man I've ever met. And that is saying something. I never had Terry as a coach, but I enjoyed him from afar as he was counseling his basketball players in the sweet vernacular that I'm sure Mr. Ivey can appreciate. And later, when I worked with him as sports information director, here at the college and had to interview him following the loss. No one could swear like TG, nor enunciate with such eloquence and diction while doing it. And talk about creative. He assaulted the English language like a fighter pilot. TG dropped motivational F-bombs by the thousands and definitely interposed a few erudite nouns, verbs, and adjectives for effect. He spoke my language and had a unique way of getting his message across. Oh, to walk with kings nor lose the common touch. What a communicator. 31 years have passed since I graduated from Monmouth College, and a lot has changed. My weight, my hairline, my ability to throw the shot put for sure. But what has not altered is the appreciation that I hold for the lessons learned and the opportunities afforded me by my association with the college and the people I met here. Each of the inductees overcame challenges and achieved success at Monmouth College, but we also knew there would be life after athletics, and that the lessons learned on the field and on the courts and on the tracks, but mostly in the classroom, would endure long after sinew and muscle had served their turn. That day has come, and so here we are. We've come full circle in a straight line, if that's possible, Pat. Point A to point B and back again. As Monmouth College Hall of Fame inductees, we are now part of a linear tradition with a circular effect that forever connects the past with the present and the present with the future. So what better way to end than with the aforementioned and promised witticism? The great New York catcher Yogi Berra once quipped, "The future ain't what it used to be." Probably because there's so little of it left now. But today, as I'm reunited with family and friends, teammates, and coaches, Yogi's words hold even greater meaning. True, the future ain't what it used to be. It's better. Thank you.
Is his daughter, Morgan.
Yes, I'm his daughter, Morgan Clark, and to present, Ivy Clark is going to be his coach, Paul Bub, but I just want to say that Ivy Clark is one of the greatest athletes that I know. We come from a big athletic family, and everyone always asks me, where do you get your motivation from, your determination, your competitive spirit? And my dad would say no, and I would say no. And we'd be out at like midnight in the garage shooting, playing one-on-one with the car lights on. And I probably won one game out of 100. But I will say, after he called me, told me that he was getting inducted to the Hall of Fame, I bowed down and I said, "You are one of the greatest athletes that I know. One day I'm going to beat you and you're like 80. But with that being said, Paul Bub is going to personally introduce
John Ross script, okay, but you know, I know how that goes. I've said in that season 2 years ago. You know, when I was coming back from my reunion, and I opened up and saw who the inductees were, having been here with Lance, I was glad to see that, and Ivy was special. And you think you got a tough title? First story. Statute of limitations is up, President, so you don't have anything to worry about this. But back in the day, coaches couldn't recruit off campus. Coaches couldn't go and visit players in their homes or anything else. Well, I was a student, and between my junior and senior year, I actually worked for the admissions office. And during the summer, I was going out on the road and calling on prospective students and visiting with them in their homes, something coaches couldn't do. I was a student coach at the time, but that didn't count. I can remember having grown up here in the Midwest, just about 60 miles from here. Terry asked me to go and make a call on a basketball player from Alonzo Junior College that was living in Aurora. And I said, sure, that's something I can do. And I've got to tell you, walking in your apartment where you live as a white boy from Western Illinois, walking into an apartment complex in Aurora where I can guarantee you I was the lightest complected person there. It was an experience, but I can remember sitting down with Ivy and his brother Rochester and talking about them coming to Monmouth College, talking about Ivy at that time coming to Monmouth College. And I've got to tell you that the players that have come through Monmouth College, there have been a number of them that could have played at a higher level. And there's no question in my mind, I've been at that level and watched those players. And Ivy was certainly one of those. But that was one of my first memories in getting Ivy to come to Monmouth College. Danny Rangel was one that had mentioned to us about a player at Alonzo that was a special player. And we were able to get Ivy down here, and very fortunate. It's really funny because you think of players that come through Monmouth at different times. There was probably a period that I was involved in the program back to 1975 up through 85, where if we could have taken any one of those groups of players and kind of combined them together, we could have won 2 or 3 national championships. And Ivy was one of those players that came through that time that maybe all the support players weren't there to work with him, but certainly he and his own did everything he could to make this program a great program. I'm glad someone was reflecting on TG because I had a flashback of TG also. Sometimes I forget who played when. And Glasgow was always great about telling me stories about Benny Coleman, who was here 10 years before me. He goes, Bubba, you remember Benny? Well, no, I wasn't there, wasn't playing with him. I had to remember, and I was trying to think, if you were on the team that went down to David Lipscomb and played in Nashville, and then we went on down to Florida, played in Central Florida, and St. Leo or not. See, my memory's just running all around, so. But that's, okay, but you were on that trip. Yeah. So we made that trip the year before we ended up going out into 2 years before we went to Hawaii. But I can remember the other experience, if I felt awkward recruiting Ivy, you can imagine, we went to play David Lipscomb, and one of the perks of the David Lipscomb trip not only was a check for playing them, but we also received tickets to the Grand Ole Opry. Now, as awkward as I felt sitting in Ivy's apartment back in when I was recruiting him, I imagine the same was true sitting in the Grand Ole Opry, but I can also remember Tim Jones, who's back here, about passed out after sitting through the session at the Grand Ole Opry as well. There was not a greater scorer than Ivy Clark at the time that he was here. And that's saying a lot because he played on the team with Jim Thornton, who wasn't afraid to take a shot either. But Ivy was a prolific rebounder, was able to hit the ball, was able to score with it. There's not a doubt in my mind that, like I said, he could have played at a higher level and been very successful. And it was just great having him here and watching him play. I know that we were a better program for having had you here, and it certainly is a privilege to see you inducted into the Hall of Fame at this time. So without any further ado, Hall of Fame, Ivy Clark.
First of all, I want to thank Monmouth College Hall of Fame for inducting me today. This is quite an honor, you know where I came from. I'm originally from a little town in North Mississippi called Hollow Springs. And I want to pay tribute to my uncle, Jimmy Clark, who's not here with me today. He moved me to Illinois, where I
Paul for that. Paul, you the reason that I came here. You made me feel like I could be wanted. Morgan, thanks for the introduction. I appreciate it. Also, I want to thank my teammates that played with me from 78 to 1980, my friends and stuff. And also I want to thank the coaches, mainly Terry Glasgow, Dr. Terry Glasgow. As you can see, I'm not a little big talker. And but this is a great honor, and I want to thank the other inductees also. My career here, believe it or not, this was a big turning point in my life. Coming here, I grew up, became a very strong man by being here. Also, I was able to come here and have a good athletic career, get a good education that I can use today. I'm presently retired from the Department of Juvenile Justice. I've been retired for 2.5 years. Now I'm going to put my degree in field education to use. Now, speaking of my career, when I came here, my plan was to become All-American. But I knew I had the confidence and talent to play Division I. But I said I would come here and give it my all, which I did. Going back to my career, we had some pretty good teams, especially in 1980. We won the division, and we played, I think, Monmouth College for the championship. And that game still bothers me to this day, because we had the opportunity to win the championship, get a berth in the NCAA tournament near Chicago, which my family could have came to watch me play. Once again, I want to thank Monmouth College and all of my friends and everyone who made this possible. And thank you guys.
Once again, want to thank everyone for coming today. First and foremost, I want to remind everyone there's a lot of events going on. We hope you stick around and enjoy the events. At 10 a.m., in about 10-15 minutes, we're going to have a water polo game over here. Also, at 1 o'clock, we're going to have the first ever varsity water polo match here at the college. So we invite everyone to attend that. At 11 o'clock is the parade, and hopefully inductees will bundle up, and they would like you to get out there at 11:15. The parade will be up here on the street, and then we have the football game at 1 o'clock versus Beloit. Go Scots! At 12:30, the alumni board tent with popcorn, balloons, and hopefully like some hot cider or coffee will be available up above the football field. And there's a lot of other events going on today. We hope you experience a lot of them. And we just want to, it just strikes me that every year it seems like the stories are a little bit different. They're always intriguing, and yet we kind of come to the same conclusion, and that's that, we have exceptional athletes, in most cases students, and again, exceptional people. And that never gets old. It makes you proud to be a Scot, and we will look forward to the ceremony every year. Once again, Ivy, Kara, Joe, and Lance, we want to congratulate you. Your induction in the Young Club Hall of Fame is a permanent legacy here at this institution, and we're very proud. Thanks again, everyone, for coming, and enjoy the weekend.